on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us. Everyone in.
So on Saturday night, Connacht enjoyed a famous and long overdue away win against Leinster at the RDS, the first for 19 years. And one man who played a big role, scoring the bonus point try in the 35-24 win in the centre, was Tom Daly. Now, Tom is on the line waiting to speak to us, but before we do speak to him, we're just going to play you this little clip from yesterday morning on OTB AM. Alan Quinlan had some interesting things to say about his performance.
One other guy I want to mention, Gerard, before we go is Tom Daly. I thought he was and has been outstanding for Connacht. I think his ability to step, his physicality, his aggressiveness, and I think he's someone that Andy Farrell should look at, have a real close look at, because I just think he's a big, strong guy who's a good runner with the ball as well. And he was outstanding for Connacht on Saturday night.
So that was Alan Quinlan speaking on yesterday's OTB AM. Tom Daly is with us now. Tom, good afternoon. Apologies if we embarrassed you just there. How does all that sound?
No, it's nice to hear, of course. Thanks for having me on, Cian, yeah. But it's nice to hear that, obviously.
So I imagine, like, what do you think of that? Is that something that's would have been on your mind at all lately? You've been at Connacht now for probably just coming on 2 years. Since you joined on loan, but I suppose they've been truncated with half seasons here or there between the loan and last season getting cut off. But do you feel like you're at that level at your own game where you'd love to be knocking on that door?
Listen, I think if you're a professional rugby player in Ireland, I think it's all rugby players' dream to play for their country, and I think there's something wrong with you if it's not one of your goals at the start of the year to pull on a green jersey. But I'm here 2 years now, and I think maybe this season is really the first season I've had consistent starts in a professional team, and I think I'm pretty happy with my performances over the last few weeks. And it's not something I think about daily or anything like that, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't something I wanted to achieve in my career. Yeah,
I imagine since that win at the weekend, you just bounced pretty much into work over the last couple of days, have you?
Yeah, definitely. The review on Monday morning was quite an enjoyable review compared to the week before against Ulster, but training's been good this week. It's obviously another massive week for us against Munster this week, and I think Quinn Roux said it well after the game on Saturday. He said it was a bloody good result and an incredible achievement for the lads, but it means nothing if we don't back it up this week against Munster. So although the mood is good, we know we have another massive task on our hands this weekend. Yeah,
and as you say, obviously it doesn't really count for as much if you don't go and do the job this weekend, and it's so important now to make it count. But the opportunity is there even this weekend, because if you were to beat Munster this coming Saturday, since they were beaten by Ulster at the weekend, like a win for yourselves over them, all of a sudden the gap is right back down again. And with one team going through from each conference to the final, all of a sudden that conference is blown wide open all over again. So it's not even just a case of having to make it count, but it's the opportunity is there as well to actually kick on with the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. We spoke about that as well. Just the win at the weekend puts us in such a good position in the conference. And of course, Munster and Leinster was cancelled a few weeks ago, so they still have to play Leinster. So a win this week would really put pressure on them to keep winning, I suppose. And we have a couple of games to catch up on ourselves. So I think if we win this weekend, our season really is still alive. And I think it's kind of like a must-win game for us, and we're really treating it like a big game. So we're all looking forward to it. Obviously, the win at the weekend will help the confidence and help the mood in the camp, but it's all eyes on Munster now.
But just to go back onto that win at the weekend, I imagine on a personal level, even for yourself, scoring the try that sealed the bonus point win, and I'd say everyone watching at home at that stage, you were obviously kind of, fully focused on the match, but that was the score that pretty much sealed the victory, kind of put it out of reach. For your own personal self, with your history with Leinster as well, I imagine a very sweet moment.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a very sweet moment. But to be honest, even at the time, I wasn't really focused. I didn't really know it was the winning or losing of the game. It was only when Leinster were camped on our line at the end, I actually, and the ref went to the TMO, I actually just turned to Sammy Arnold, and the clock was on 78 or something, and I had to ask him how much we were winning by, because I couldn't calculate it in my head, and he was like, "Don't worry, mate, we've won it." So that was that was a sweet moment. It was a massive win for us, and I think it was a much needed win as well, coming off the back of those 3 defeats. I think we were good against Racing, really good against Racing, and probably unlucky not to come back and nip that one at the end. But then we kind of were disappointed with our performance against Bristol, and then we were probably good for half the game against Ulster, and we let ourselves down in the second half. So I think it was a much needed win in the camp, and it came at a good time for us.
Talk us through the actual game itself, though, on Saturday, because Jack Harty was on OTB AM yesterday, and he spoke about that there was just the feeling beforehand when you were together in the team hotel that it could be your night. And I was watching it at home, and obviously Connacht got off to such a great start, and it was reminding everyone maybe of the game 2 years ago when Connacht almost did it against Leinster and lost with pretty much the very last play of the game. And I think when Leinster scored a try early in the second half, maybe a lot of people watching at home were thinking, okay, that's probably, this is happening all over again. But, you know, you got a penalty, you put some more points on the board and just kept the scoreboard ticking over like that. And ultimately then with whatever it was, 10 minutes to go, ball pops up into your hands on the intercept. And it even looked like you were going to get caught at one point. You had to shake off a couple of tackles before you eventually made it to the line.
Yeah. As you said, it was a great moment, and it's nice to look back on it, especially. But I just think the performance as a whole team was incredible. I think Jack and Blady had two massive games. They played us in the right areas. We kind of went into that game with a focus of saving fuel for our forwards. So our kind of game plan, I suppose, was to play in the right areas. We'll kick the ball back to them and let them run back at us. And then we just had a massive focus in defence of attacking Leinster and putting them under pressure. And I think that just from some of the comments from the coaches and stuff, that was really good. And we had our defensive review on Monday morning, and our missed tackle percentage has been a little bit higher than usual, but I think that was just down to the aggressiveness of our line, and we were just really flying at the line trying to put Leinster under pressure and force mistakes from them. And I think we just stuck to the game plan probably more so than we had in the weeks previous, and it seemed to pay off for us, you know.
So you've been at Connacht now 2 years. It was late December in 2018 when you joined up with the squad, going initially on a 6-month loan. It was at a really difficult time for you as well, because you'd been through pretty much a year out with an ACL injury, and you were probably struggling to get back into the team with Leinster. So I think I've read you kind of saying that, you know, Connacht was your chance to get back into proper rugby again. When you look back on that period a couple of years ago, was it a difficult decision, or did you feel your time was absolutely right to leave Leinster and you had to go search for something new?
To be honest, it couldn't have come at a better time for me. As you said, I was just off the back of a long knee injury. I'd missed pretty much the whole year previous to the year previous before I came down, and I was struggling to get into the Leinster team. I had a couple of appearances off the bench and stuff, but I wasn't really nailing down a starting berth or even in 23 much weeks. So I was quite frustrated, and obviously when you're not playing, there's no other club seeing you. So I was kind of looking around for contracts at the time, and probably wasn't as much as I'd like to have been popping up. But I can remember it clearly. I was driving home to Carlow for a day on a random Sunday, and I saw Andy Friend, a random number calling me, and it was Friendy, and he kind of just said he liked what he'd seen or what he had heard about me from other coaches, and he wondered would I be interested in coming down on loan. He said he had spoken to Leo about it, and Leo was sound enough to give it the go ahead. So I nearly took his arm off when he offered it. So I was straight up there the next Monday, and then I think I was in the team a couple of weeks later, and it's just got better and better over them 2 years. I think I had like maybe 7 or 8 caps on that first half year, and then 11 or 12 last year, and now I've had like maybe 9 or 10 starts this year, which is more than I've ever had in one season in my career. So, and I think that game playing off of my performances, I'm probably playing the best rugby I've played in my career, and I'm just really happy with how things are going at the minute. Yeah.
So when you were in that period when you were trying to get some bit of a move away, even alone at the time, did you have someone kind of putting the feelers out on your behalf, or we'll say was that call from Andy Friend? Were they looking for someone, and Andy Friend just thought, you know what, Tom Daly over at Connacht, he's someone we could use, or kind of had you made your interest known to other teams as well?
I think Friendy, Connacht had a few injuries in the backs, and Friendy kind of came looking for a back, and I think he had heard from other coaches more so than saw what I could do, but he had heard from, I think it could have even been the 7th coaches, because I spent a few years there, that they spoke quite highly of me. So and Friendy coming from a 7th background obviously values that. So I think yeah, so he kind of came looking for me and gave me the call, and Steve Fitz actually got a call around the same time. So Stephen Fitzgerald came down a couple of weeks after me. So they were quite light on backs at the minute, and I think they kind of looked around at the other provinces of who they liked, and obviously my name popped up, and 2 years later I'm still here.
Yeah, and the sevens influence is something I did want to speak to you about as well, because obviously you came from the Irish sevens background, you captained the Irish sevens team, and as you said, Andy Friend has such a strong sevens background, and we can even see it as well with a couple of signings he's made over the last couple of years. John Porch coming in was an Australian sevens international, and Ben O'Donnell as well. Connacht over the last few years as well, they've had that style of playing where it has almost looked at times like a kind of a sevens game in the 15-a-side.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely some elements of the sevens that Friendly brings into our game, whether it's breakdown and outside backs being really safe over the ball and wide rucks and stuff like that. And you can probably see it in our restarts as well. We use our backs quite a lot as lifters and jumpers in pods across the front. So there's definitely little tricks of the trade from sevens that he takes. And then obviously he's brought in Porchy, who's been a phenomenal signing for us. He's one of our most consistent players over the last 2 years, and I think he's just getting better and better the more he plays as well. And obviously Benny O'Donnell got his first cap at the weekend there as well, and he's been looking really good in training as well. He's off the back of a knee injury too, but I'll be looking forward to seeing a bit more of him in the coming weeks. So yeah, there's definitely little bits of sevens influence in the stuff we do, and I think it helps when you have players like you as you said, like we play a bit of a seven style, but I think a lot of that might be down to our halfbacks with Lady, Marmo and Jack and Fitzy and stuff. They like to throw the ball around as well, and the shape that Nigel Carlin implements here is quite pro good rugby, if you get me. So yeah, it's an enjoyable place to play rugby.
Going back even to that clip of Alan Quinlan speaking about you, like things he referenced would be like, you know, your footwork, handling, things like that. They're two things you would absolutely associate with that would be like cornerstones of sevens rugby. How much of that influence has kind of brought on to, how much of that has influenced your game now as someone coming up towards, what I think you're, is it 27 or 28 years old? You would have had that time with the sevens. Like, how much of a different player are you maybe now as opposed to maybe 5-6 years ago when you were starting out in the sevens program?
Yeah, I think I can't speak highly enough for sevens. I've done it in a few interviews before. I think it just brought my game on leaps and bounds, especially my passing, as you said there. That was probably a work on for me coming up through the age grades, and being a big enough centre. Sometimes you get stereotyped into being a crash ball centre or something like that. But the sevens really developed my skills, and you can see now I'm covering 10 a lot of the weeks for Connacht, and Friendly obviously trusts me enough to run a game from 10. So I think that just shows that my skills have come on a bit in the last few years, and I think a big part of that is down to the sevens, and even defensive stuff like one-on-one tackling. You're exposed to such space either side of you in the sevens game, so you have to be nailed on with your tackling. So I think both sides of the ball it can only do good, particularly for backs, but even some loose forwards and stuff you see playing for Ireland sevens these days. It's definitely a good pathway into the professional game. And
the knockout then, as well, as I imagine you can run for days. Your Bronco test must be off the charts, is it?
Yeah, I actually got lucky this year. We actually ran them at the end of pre-season when them two Interpro games were in the Aviva against Ulster and Munster, and I was like, there was 2 or 3 of us who were involved in both games, and I was one of them, so I luckily got away from it this year. But yeah, my score would be all right. It wouldn't be anywhere near the top guys, but I'd be, I don't know, middle of the park, maybe a little bit above middle of the park.
I was reading back on something you said last year. You were quite open speaking to the media around, I think it was around coming up to Christmas last year in that Heineken Champions Cup break, and you'd said that you weren't too pleased maybe about the game time you were getting with Connacht, that, you know, the goal when you had gone there was that you wanted to be playing rugby consistently and more regularly, and it wasn't really happening. And I think you said you picked up the phone and essentially called Andy Friend one night and asked him to fill you in on what you needed to do. When you look back at that now, is that something that you would have been thinking about for a long time? And if you think about now, maybe if I didn't actually make that call, I might necessarily even be in a Connacht squad anymore.
I wouldn't look at it like that. I think that phone call was more just, I think it just shows how approachable Friendly is, nearly, that I was comfortable enough to pick up the phone and ring him on a random Tuesday night after the team was named and say, listen here, what's the story? Why am I not in this week? Because I think if I remember correctly, I'd come off the bench the week before and I thought I'd done pretty well, but they'd gone with the same 2 centres. But to be honest, last year there was 5 centres in Connacht who were all playing outstanding stuff. There was Petey Robb, Kyle Godwin, Bundy, Tom Farrell and myself, who were all playing really good at the time. And I think I was probably just a little bit frustrated that I hadn't got the chance to start. But looking back, maybe like the lads who were starting weren't playing badly either. So it was. I think that phone call just more shows how approachable Friendly was, and he was pretty honest with me, saying that your chance will come, and when it does come, you have to take it because everyone's playing so well in that position. And I think I did start the following week and did pretty well and kept my place for a few weeks. So yeah, it worked out in the end.
Yeah, I think was that the week in between the 2 Gloucester games of the Heineken Cup?
Yeah, it could have been that. Yeah, and I think
you laid on the try then for Robin Copeland at the end of the home game.
Yeah,
that big comeback win.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, and then I think the following week I started for a few weeks. So the phone call obviously works for some way, but yeah.
He's Andy Friendly comes across, as you mentioned, like he's clearly very, very approachable, and he would have been on the show loads of times over the last couple of years. When you're on the phone with him in that case, is he just essentially reassuring you, telling you to keep patient, or is he giving you a few little things and a few pointers to work on?
Both. He'd be very reassuring, and he's just very honest. He'll tell you where you stand in the team, where you are in the pecking order for your position, and he will give you areas that he thinks that you can do better, and he'll even cut clips for you and stuff like that. So I think Friendly's strength is just how approachable he is. I'd have no hesitation going into his office if the team was picked and I wasn't in it, and asking him why wasn't I in it, or if I am in it, I'll go in and ask him what does he want to see more of. It's just, I think it's the kind of culture in Connacht that it's quite an open floor with the coaches, and they're very, very approachable. I'm sure it is in every team, but I can only speak from Friendly, and he's the only coach I've had here, so I couldn't be happier with him. Yeah. There
was a huge turnaround at Connacht over the summer just gone. Like a huge number of names left. Even high-profile guys, someone like Nee Adeolokan would have left, and he's doing great at Bristol now. But there was a big turnover of players, and even some who have come in over the summer have really hit the ground running. Like Alex Wootton scoring plenty of tries. Conor Oliver came in as well, and there seems to be a kind of a feeling around Connacht that so much of the recruitment is guys who probably haven't had the breaks at other provinces, who maybe kind of fell victim to injury, maybe like yourself would have done at Leinster. And obviously when you come back from that injury, you're much further down the pecking order. And there's almost a second chance element to a lot of the recruitment. And I think you see it in games like Saturday just gone, where there's almost a chip on the shoulder and a bit of an edge to some of the players that, you know, a lot of them would have been involved with Leinster or Munster Ulster down the years, and you can just see that bit of an edge about them.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've read somewhere before Friendly saying that he looks in the other provinces and he sees lads who he thinks are good enough and aren't getting game time for whatever reason. And fair enough if you're happy to do that and sit in another province and be third or fourth choice in that position. But I don't see why you wouldn't if there's another province looking for you and you see a space on that team that you could fill and you could be higher up the pecking order. I think you'd be mad not to take it. And yeah, as you said, that chip on your shoulder kind of attitude, like it's there. Of course, you want to play well against. It's more so you're playing against your friends, and I was playing against a lot of my friends last weekend, and it was just good crack to be on the pitch against them. And obviously, you want to play well against them and get one up on them. And I'm sure it'll be the same for Sammy and Woods and Conor Oliver this weekend, playing against their old club. They'll want to do well, but I think first and foremost we just want to win for Connacht, because we're in with a shout of top of the table if we can win this, and Connacht has given us the opportunity to be first choice players here. So yeah, I think that's the main one. Given
the way the Heineken Champions Cup opening rounds have gone for you, obviously it now looks like the Pro 14 has to be the real target for the season ahead. You've got yourself in a really, really good position, as we kind of spoke about at the start. This Munster game coming up at the weekend, like it's likely they're going to be bringing back, a lot more of their frontline players that they would have missed out on at the weekend. It's, even though Leinster, a lot of people would probably say, are a better team than Munster, it's probably going to be a step up in terms of the personnel you're facing.
Yeah, Munster, I presume, will come fully loaded. It's a big game for them as well. They don't want us coming up on their heels in the table. So, and traditionally Munster always do send a good side up to the sports ground. The last two Christmases I've played them, they've sent pretty much a full strength team, and they have a pretty good record here. So we have no doubt that it's going to be probably a step up from the weekend, and especially being in our conference is going to be an extra bite in the game, because it probably means a little bit more. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. Obviously, we've parked that win at the weekend now. That was parked on Monday morning after the review, and all eyes are on Munster. And I could have said it earlier, but Quinn Rue spoke pretty well after the game on Sunday or Saturday, and said, listen, if you don't back up this performance, it doesn't mean anything. So that's really what our focus is about now, and backing up this performance and putting ourselves with a shout of qualifying for the final.
All right, well, Tom, it's been a pleasure speaking to you here on Off the Ball this evening, and the very best of luck this weekend against Munster. And who knows, if Alan Quinlan is right, good luck next month in the Six Nations.
Thanks very much, Cian. Thank you.
Cheers.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us, everyone in.